Have you seen one of these before? This is a Tesla adapter so that this Nissan Ariya can gain access to the 20,000 Tesla Superchargers around the world. In fact, it says so right here, Tesla adapter. But that's not the only reason you might want to consider this Nissan EV. It also comes with a reasonable price, decent driving range, a comfortable and modern interior, and a pretty smooth ride. The downside, some of the technology, the key technology here, is a little behind the times. Hi, I'm Jeremy Cato, and this is CatoCarGuy.com. Thanks for watching, and like this video, and if you have not already subscribed, please do. There is a terribly sad irony in seeing Nissan rely on Tesla to boost interest in its electric vehicles. I mean, Nissan led the pack with mainstream electric vehicles back in 2010 with the arrival of the Nissan Leaf. Nissan launched this vehicle to all kinds of accolades and excitement, but right after it launched it, well, Nissan pretty much gave up on the whole idea of electric vehicles and hybrids too for the next, decade and a half? That's crazy. There's also something a bit dispiriting about the fact that some of the technological pieces here, the driver interface with the infotainment system, for example, just seems a little clunky. What you're looking at here is the top-of-the-line Ariya E-Force all-wheel drive. Now, the lithium-ion battery under the floor, it's very robust and it delivers plenty of power to all four wheels, but it's not head-snapping torque like you get in a Model 3 or a Model S. Still, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, around 5.5 seconds, but it's a more smooth application of power. It's not that bam, right in the nose kind of power that you get from a Tesla. And when you're on the road, well, this thing leans a bit in the corners, a bit more than I would like. It just doesn't feel particularly sporty. In a straight line is very smooth, but that leaning, that inability to really give you a sporty dynamic as you're driving along, it's a bit of a disappointment. Another disappointment is the regenerative braking. You can't do pure one-pedal driving here, and in fact, if you want to come to a stop, unlike other vehicles here, you have to keep your foot on the brake pedal. Now, don't get me wrong here, the ride quality isn't floaty and marshmallowy, but it's just not dynamic and exciting. What I do like, though, in particular, is the interior, especially the seats. They are supportive, they're comfortable, the whole cabin is quite roomy. I think those things are terrific. The climate control with its various zone controls, that's also very, very good. So there are some terrific elements to recommend the Ariya to the driver who is not looking for a dynamic, exciting experience, but rather something that is composed, comfortable, safe, and roomy. Ah, the cabin. I particularly like the touch-sensitive controls that line the dashboard and the center console. They look good and are relatively easy to use, and they respond quickly to your touch, and they vibrate to let you know that they've actually been engaged. The touchscreen is a close reach to the driver's seat, that's good, and the higher floor, because you're sitting on that lithium-ion battery, creates a very tall driving position, which is excellent for visibility, and also makes it easy to enter and exit. You will also find power adjustments for the steering wheel, which is unusual in this price class, and there's loads and loads of legroom front and rear. But the rear seat headroom, not ideal. And the cabin itself, it doesn't really feel overly airy and open, which surprises me given the design. The design, well, there's a bit of a lunar module look to this. It's basic, it has a nice stance, it has a decent flow to it for aerodynamic efficiency, but there's nothing here that really jumps out and says, wow, I have never seen anything like that before. So the design here is a bit of a disappointment, especially when you consider the Nissan Leaf was launched in 2010. So the designers had, a decade or more to come up with an eye-popping design that would really grab the EV world by the lapels and shake it up. Another slight disappointment is the touchscreen interface here. Well, at 12.3 inches, it's perfectly sized. I quite like that size, but the software feels a bit dated, a little clunky. And you have to go through all sorts of screens to manage the features that you access all the time. Cost cutting also shows up in the smartphone interface. Yes, wireless Apple CarPlay is standard, but Android Auto requires a wired connection. Voice controls are also hard to figure out, and entering a navigation destination is an exercise in frustration. When you're out driving Nissan's ProPilot 2.0, well, it works well when you're on mapped roadways to give you something that resembles hands-free driving. But when it's not mapped and you go to the adaptive cruise control, it does a relatively poor job of recognizing when your hands are actually on the steering wheel. This cargo area behind the rear seat, it's not the biggest in class, and even this charging cable here takes up plenty of room. So I think Nissan could have done a better job of creating cargo space at the very back. In the proper cabin, well, there's a lack of storage space for small personal items. There's nowhere in this vehicle to put a purse or a bag, and you can't put it on the floor because the open flat space between the front seats means it will roll around and present a safety issue. Range for the dual motor Ariya is about average for its class, and you can recharge from 20 to 80% using a 130 kilowatt charger in about 40 minutes, which again is about average for the segment. I've studied other reports that looked at dual motor EVs, and the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and the Volkswagen ID.4 were all more efficient than the Ariya. This Ariya EV is not a bad rig at all, and at around 61 grand as you see it here, competitively priced. I'm Jeremy Cato. Please like this video if you like it and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.